game, the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo. Coming up on the show this week, we're still catching up on a few of the latest releases, including the freaky FPS F.E.A.R 3.
Dungeons will be divided and conquered cooperatively with the monster slaying of Hunted the Demon's Forge.
Plus, we'll bring you our impressions on the remastered Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the 3DS.
And our reporter Goose is back, and he'll be trying out a Street Fighter combo or two on some of the world's best players. It's gonna get smashed.
And we will laugh.
Yeah.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Oh, it's bad luck to be you. A chosen one of many isn't you. When you think you're full of luck, in the bullets you'll get struck. Oh, it's bad luck to be you.
A big response to last week's game, Dynamite Cop for the Dreamcast, Barjo.
Awesome game.
What have we got this week?
Well, Hex, this week I have this fancy ammunition crate. You can store your ammunition in it.
Okay, is there anything in it right now, though?
No.
Okay, well, how about you find something to put in there and I'll go read the news.
Okay. Oh, it doesn't fit.
Epic Games' anticipated sequel, Gears of War 3, has been leaked online months before its September release date. An early build of the game was recently uploaded to torrent sites, featuring a playable but unfinished campaign and multiplayer. Spoiler-filled videos were soon posted online, but Microsoft has stated it is not representative of what fans will enjoy when the game launches. Microsoft security and law enforcement teams are currently investigating the situation. Sydney-based LA Noire developer Team Bondi is under investigation by the IGDA.
The evidence is overwhelming. May the cat eat him and the cat be eaten by the devil. Bring me a confession, young fellows.
The investigation follows on from allegations of poor working conditions, including 110-hour working weeks with unpaid overtime, as well as 130 developers who claim to have been left out of the game's credits.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sure my lawyer can clear all this up.
IGDA is currently seeking any Team Bondi employees, past or present, to submit comments regarding the situation.
I'm done with you. Go flap your gums somewhere else. I want my lawyer.
Maker of the Halo series, Bungie Software, has launched a new publishing platform for independent mobile and social game developers. Known as Bungie Aerospace, it offers financial aid, access to Bungie.net, marketing support, and technical expertise. The first partnership will be with developer Harebrained Schemes and their game Crimson. Harebrained Schemes is led by Jordan Weissman, a major creative force behind the MechWarrior and Shadowrun series.
My God!
Good game!
I've always enjoyed the F.E.A.R games, Hex, for their atmosphere and those creepy little moments. F.E.A.R 3 follows the story of Point Man and his ghostly brother F.E.A.R. They're both sons of Armor, who you might remember as the creepy ghost little psychic thing from the previous games. Early on, F.E.A.R frees Point Man from prison, and they both embark on a fantastic journey to reunite with their mother.
Even if you've played the other F.E.A.Rs, you may find it a little bit difficult to understand what's going on here story-wise. Your overall objective is clear, but a lot of the background filler is confusing, and it doesn't explain enough about the characters or their motives for doing what they're doing. But I did like the way the character of F.E.A.R was woven into the story.
You didn't even bother to question your orders, did you? You just did as you were told.
He's always with you and talking to you, but he remains invisible to others in the cutscenes. Obviously, the two brothers have been set up for co-op play, and this is where the game really comes alive.
Mother, tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to hear my words. What they mean, what they say, mother.
F.E.A.R can hold up enemies for Point Man to take down. He can also possess others, and the more souls he collects from dead enemies, the longer he can stay in a possessed body.
And along with Point Man's trademarked slowdown ability, there's plenty of co-op strategy to explore, and I especially liked being F.E.A.R, you know, jumping to another enemy in the middle of a big firefight just confused everything, and it was great fun.
Give me some cover fire!
You definitely want to bump that co-op difficulty to hard though, otherwise you'll find it a bit easy. But playing solo is almost as rewarding. Enemies are tough, smart, and will do their best to flush you out of hiding and overwhelm you. Your slowdown ability isn't an I win button in F.E.A.R 3, it's an I need button. You'll use it to get out of trouble when your health is low, and also to more effectively take down enemies. Also, slow motion is cool. I'm not sick of this mechanic at all, Hex.
Yeah, I think that's because you rely on it so heavily. There is also a cover system which lets you lean and peek around boxes, although it's a little bit sticky to get in and out of. I actually found I stopped using it after the first few levels because it was getting me into trouble more than it was getting me out of it.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that'll be better on the PC version, because Call of Juarez Bound in Blood had a similar kind of system, and it was rubbish on the consoles, but I found it on the PC quite useful. I like the chatter from the human enemies as well. It lets you know when they've spotted you or when they've lost sight of you.
I'm hit! He got me!
And it's a shame there weren't more stealthy sections that took advantage of that.
Enemies.
I think the way they pull you through the levels is very clever though, and it speaks to the developers' solid experience here, because you just see subtle uses of light and doors will bust open, letting you know that you can go through them.
I still found I'd get lost every now and again though, Barjo. I mean, some doors you can open and some doors you can't, and there's lots of little boxes and railings that look like you can jump over them, but you can't actually get over. And that kind of carelessness really frustrates me. I wish they'd done a little bit more playtesting to iron those out.
It's a good looking game though, isn't it?
I especially liked those exosuit and mech areas and the more creepy zones such as the warehouse. There's been plenty of thought put into those little areas where you'll be trapped and have to survive without them feeling like a tedious clear the zone mechanic with a few waves of goons.
I would have liked more variety in the weapons, but I loved the melee, especially when you came across enemies that randomly blocked it. That always caught me by surprise. And you can chain that together with a devastating slide as well. Ammo is reasonably scarce, which is always good, and you'll come across some pretty tough elite soldiers who disappear into walls only to reappear behind you, and they were the most fun to engage.
You know, Barjo, I was disappointed that F.E.A.R 3 wasn't scarier. I mean, there were one or two of those creepy moments, but none of those genuine frights that made the first two games so memorable.
Yeah, I think the scariest thing for me was walking across a ladder and having it shake. Oh, the ladder, it's a creepy ladder. I think F.E.A.R's, for me though, it's been about atmosphere. I've never really felt the F.E.A.R games that scary, and I think there is atmosphere here. Plus, it's very gory here. You'll see faces being blown off to reveal muscle tissue, and yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Co-op can be played in split screen, and there are a bunch of multiplayer modes, including a wave mode where you have to trudge out in between waves to gather supplies. I thought this wave mode was pretty good, Barjo, probably because it has terrifying enemies that like to gang up on you.
Yeah, it's intense. I quite like the F.E.A.R run mode, where this wall of death just chases you down and you have to fight your way through. It's not much fun if you're playing with a noob though, because one death from the wall and it's all over, but it's a unique idea.
This will do.
There's also some possession modes which aren't bad, but we should wrap this up, Hex. I like the rigid combat here. It was challenging and it was interesting. If I'm going to be picky, I'd say there were a few slow walking bits which I found particularly frustrating. Just get moving. There is replay value here too, because you can replay the whole campaign as F.E.A.R, and it is quite a different experience. But it was the co-op that made it memorable for me. So I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I found playing as F.E.A.R really interesting and different. There are some nice touches here and there that we won't spoil for you, and overall I had fun with it, but it wasn't too memorable, so I'm giving it 7 out of 10 rubber chickens.
We recently caught up with one of F.E.A.R 3's developers, and that interview is on the website.
Good game!
On the weekend, over on Spawn Point on ABC3, we reviewed the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D.
Indeed, Hex. The original Ocarina of Time was released almost 13 years ago in 1998 and is considered by many to be a perfect game.
If you want that full review, you can check that out on the Spawn Point website if you want every detail about the game, but Barjo, Ocarina is such a classic that we thought we'd chat about it a bit more here on Good Game.
That's right. Everything has been given a big facelift for this 3DS remake, and it all looks much prettier, while at the same time looking just how it was. It makes you wonder if this is how they wanted their game to always look, but just because of certain limitations of the 64, they couldn't pull it off. Whatever the case, it looks beautiful.
It does. And naturally, being on the 3DS, they've added a 3D effect, and here it's been handled really well. When you see the land of Hyrule stretching out in front of you with Death Mountain way off in the distance, you'll be totally entranced. The 3D really adds a lot of depth to the landscape, although, let's be honest, it's still the kind of thing you'll turn off for the bulk of your time adventuring, because it's still quite hard on the eyes if you play for extended periods of time.
Yeah, I found I'd just walk into a zone, oh, that looks really pretty. 3D off, back to the game.
Yeah.
It's particularly frustrating when you're using the new gyroscope controls, because moving the 3DS means you always lose focus of the 3D image. But the gyro feature is well implemented. You can aim your slingshot and bow just by moving the 3DS around, and it's surprisingly accurate. You can also just go into first-person view and move the 3DS to look around at the world through Link's eyes.
I loved that. It's like having a secret Zelda universe all around you that you can gaze at. I also loved having the map and the inventory on the lower screen of the 3DS. It makes life so much easier not having to pause to access your inventory, and being able to instantly reference your maps is awesome.
They've added the Master Quest too from the GameCube version, which is a nice touch, and it mirrors the world, and that's quite hard on the brain. And they've also added a new timed boss gauntlet mode, where you face off against all the bosses in one stretch.
Ocarina is the perfect game to be remastered. It was way ahead of its time when it was released, which means 13 years later, it hardly feels like an old game, especially after a facelift. This really is the definitive version of one of gaming's most defining games. I can't fault it, Barjo. I'm giving it 10 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I also think enough time has passed that people who played the original will feel like this is fresh again in some ways. And if you've never played Ocarina of Time, it's the perfect game. I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens. Slightly less than New Hex, simply because Navi is still completely annoying.
Hey! Listen!
I think everyone in the Good Game office is going to be fighting over that one cartridge we have now though, Barjo.
Yes, especially Goose, who revealed to us last week that he used to be a Mad Nintendo fanboy. And speaking of Goose, he's back out in the field down in Melbourne, where he attended the recent Shadowloo Showdown fighting game tournament. Let's see how he went.
Get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. We're here in Melbourne for the Shadowloo Showdown, one of Australia's biggest fighting tournaments. And it's where some of the best fighters from around the world are here to duke it out and see who's the champion. Fight! What does it take to organise an event like this?
Well, to be honest, this event started by my brothers walking into the room and asking, hey man, let's invite some international players and run an event. And it was just like, all right, let's do it. You need some really good community members to back you up. We wouldn't be able to do this without some of the members in our community.
And how did you go about getting some of the big names here today?
Well, a lot of them came down because we've made good connections with them over the last year or two. So we invite everyone from around Australia to come test their skills against some of the best from the world.
How long have you been playing fighter games for?
I've been playing fighting games, since the beginning of time, since the first Street Fighter 2. I played E Honda. For some reason, I like big characters that deal a lot of damage. Maybe it's because of my current size. Overcompensating.
How long have you been competing for?
Since I'm very young, like 6th grade, I'm going to use Aidon because this is my main character. I spend a lot of time to study it, and I like it.
Bison vs. Akuma.
How long have you been playing these fighting games for?
8 months. I'm a newbie.
What character is your favourite?
Bison. He's got big rush downs. I'm good at attacking. I'm not good at defensive, so he's good for attacking.
3 years.
3 years? What character do you play as?
I play Blanca.
Blanca? Oh, Choco Blanca.
Yeah.
There you go.
Balrog or Rose, I guess. Probably more Rose. I've been using Balrog since the beginning of Street Fighter 4. But if we want to talk serious, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, my favorite character of all time is Urien.
So, Gamer B, you won the tournament last year. Yes. How do you think you're going to go this year?
I think this time is too many Japanese top players in here. It's very, very hard to beat them. But it depends the situation today. Maybe I can do well. I can make maybe top 3. Then I will be happy.
What advice would you have to anyone who wanted to compete in a tournament such as this one?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to enjoy the game. That's like a given. After you enjoy it, it helps if you have a circle of friends or a small community that you can play with. But if you don't, it doesn't matter anymore because we have the internet.
I think the most important thing is never stop thinking, because you need to think what should I do to get better, and what did my rival did to beat me. So if you think a lot, you can be better.
Stay calm. Stay calm at all times. Don't let the people in the audience make you nervous.
A very common misconception is that people who play in tournaments are like much better than the average player, which is completely false. Just because you play in tournaments doesn't make you any good. It just means that you show up to the events.
Could I compete against you?
彼と対戦してもいいですか？
全然いい。
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Why not?
Now, what do you think is going to be the future for fighting games, especially tournaments like this one?
We got big plans for it. Hopefully people keep enjoy this one and want to see it return. And if they do, then we just want to keep increasing the, let's say, awesomeness of the event. More features, more players, and stuff like that.
Just got me. Well done. You're much better than I am.
Japanese game designer Goichi Suda, better known as Suda51, the man behind Killer 7 and No More Heroes, has always had a bit of a thing for British culture. Everything from the punk movement to Premier League football.
And you can see that influence in his games, especially the later Shadows of the Damned. When Suda51 dropped into the den of gaming, we just had to sit down and have a chat.
How is your dear, sweet Paula? Fuck you!
そうですね、もともと僕らが作るグラスホッパーマン役者のゲームっていうのはパンクスタイルというふうに呼ばれてるんですけども、今回は特にガルシアのルックスであったりとか、そしてゲームプレイ、そして物語の内容もそうですし、実際に戦う派手な、そしてエキサイティングで、ちょっとグロテスクなコンバットもそうですね。そして僕らが影響を受けているのは、ポストパンクからの影響が僕はあるんですけども、今回は特にシャドウ・オブ・ザ・ダムド、このタイトルと同じくですね、ザ・ダムドという、昔の UK のパンクバンドがあるんですけども、彼らとコラボレーションすることができたんですね。そこからの影響もすごく大きいです。今回は僕らにとって EA と一緒に組んでやるということで、すごく大きな挑戦のプロジェクトだったんですけれども、その中でまずスタンダードなアクションゲームを作ろうというふうに僕ら考えたんですね。ただやはり僕らの個性を出さなければ面白くないですし、やっぱり僕たちが作る革新的な要素っていうものを入れたくて、それはゲームの随所に現れてるんですけども、一番は今回は特に光と闇の要素You need more thrust! まずガルシアのこのタトゥーですね。今すごく縦と横にラインが入ってるんですけども、この傷というのは実はポーラと出会ってからできた傷で、ガルシアが寝てる間に、ポーラがですねちょっとお腹が空いてしまってですね、もう我慢できなくなってしまって、もう叩き起こすためにですねナイフを持ってガルシアのここに傷をつけて、そしてこの傷が生まれたんですね。あれは愛の証なんです、2人の。ノーマンヒーローズの時は大体いつもそうやってアイデアを考えていたんですね。でほとんどのシナリオであったりとか、すごくファニーなアイデアっていうのはほとんどトイレで生まれたんですけれども、で、ダムドでは、違うスタイルでアイデアを考えようと思ったんですけども、やはりほとんどのアイデアは、やっぱりトイレから生まれましたね。
A fascinating fellow and a snappy dresser.
Yes, in fact, this leather jacket was custom made for Suda51 to wear when he was in Australia. It's an exact replica of the jacket worn by Garcia Hotspur in the game.
And it could be yours. We're giving this jacket away, and to enter, you need to send us a picture of yourself dressed at your utmost daggiest. The most deserving outfit will win the jacket, and consider it a good game makeover.
Send your deliciously daggy pics into us via email with the subject line Suda51 Jacket Comp, or post your pics in the Good Game forums. Remember to read the terms and conditions on our website.
Good luck to everyone who enters, and we'll be bringing you our review of Shadows of the Damned next week.
Barjo, when Hunted first landed on my desk, I have to admit I was pretty excited. I mean, Bethesda rarely lead us astray, and if anyone knows their way around a good fantasy adventure, it's them. The story begins when Caddick, a human mercenary, is visited in a dream by a sexy sorceress voiced by Lucy Lawless.
And those visions are a foretelling of the riches and power I can provide you.
Who asks him to embark on an epic quest to retrieve a mysterious stone, promising him boobs and gold. So he teams up with his elven battle buddy Alara to seek out adventure.
These dreams feel so real. And this one ended in a way I did not like at all.
There's virtually no backstory between these two characters, but their relationship isn't completely stale. There's some fairly enjoyable banter between the two.
No happy ending this time?
Caddick is the hefty, strong, and rational one of the two, whereas Alara is the impulsive Russian bow and arrow a-blazing type of girl.
Maybe you're right. Perhaps if I cut out your tongue, your words would no longer frustrate me.
Easy girl.
There are various points throughout each level where you can switch between characters, and it's good to do this just to mix up the playstyle.
When you play Hunted solo, your companion is controlled quite decently by the AI. In fact, this is arguably one of those games that's easier to play with AI than trying to coordinate with a real-life buddy. AI always does a pretty good job of healing you, and on medium difficulty they rarely go down. However, in co-op I found that we were a little bit all over the shop. Potions drop quite randomly, and you can't hold many potions at a time, which I found a bit frustrating. Often they're everywhere when you don't need them, and suddenly none are around when you do. And if neither of you have any revive vials, then it's over.
Hunted takes a almost Gears of War style approach to the combat. You'll be popping in and out of cover, fighting off waves of enemies, but the problem is that particular style of play has been copied and perfected time and time again, but here they've just done a really clumsy job of it, and the cover system is just awful. It's too restrictive with what you can take cover behind. You can't just pick any old rock or barrel. It has to be one of the specific waist-high barricades that have been strategically placed around for you. Who put all these logs here? How convenient. I just feel like we've moved past that a bit now. Subtlety in cover is really important.
The two adventurers each have their strengths. Katic is better taking up a club or an axe and charging into the fray, while Alara is more effective picking off enemies with her bow from a distance.
Perfect shot.
I found I relied heavily on battle magic once I'd leveled it up a fair bit, because you can often use it to clear a number of enemies in one hit, which is great, while I had mana. Enemies are really quite good at deflecting arrows with shields too, so often I felt a bit useless kind of firing my measly arrows from a distance while Katic did all the dirty work.
You can find gear just lying about the place, or you can smash weapon racks. But the gear on offer is pretty uninspiring. Whoever smashes the rack will get a weapon best suited to them, but it's rarely better than what you already have, or it's exactly the same.
Yeah, playing as Alara, I just kept coming across a gazillion different bows, but the base stats on them were really basic. I could simply choose between slow, medium, and fast with a damage number, sometimes with an additional limited effect, but in general it was pretty boring. I mean, in shooters we've come to expect a really wide variety of gun models to really switch up the combat, but when it comes to fantasy, you know, a bow is a bow, so we really rely on those sophisticated weapon stats to keep things interesting, and I just thought this game really lacked in that area.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have more choices of gear too, like armor. We both picked up these pauldrons at one point.
Oh, I've since found out that those things are called Alorica Manica.
Well, that was about it.
Yeah.
I'll happily play an average hack and slash game if there's enough armor or gear in it to keep me happy, or if the action is good enough that I don't care about gear, but this didn't have either of those.
Yeah, now speaking of armor, I have to stop you there for a second because this is something I really need to talk about. Now, I'll admit I'm a bit of a fantasy genre snob, and I'm sorry if this is going to sound like a massive femme rant, but I can't help it. I am so sick of sexy elf chicks charging into battle wearing little to no clothing. Now, I have no issues with characters being portrayed as sexy, so long as there is at least an element of practicality woven in. I mean, make her outfit tight-fitting, make it fetish-inspired, I don't care. But call me crazy, I like my character to be wearing, oh, I don't know, some pants? I mean, no woman in her right mind goes charging into the fray wearing a G-string and a couple of belts across her boobs.
What about a boots hex? Half her leg was well protected. But yeah, Katic wasn't much better. He has a chest plate on, but no shirt either.
Well, there must be a very simple explanation.
Although I seem to remember someone quite enjoying a montage of Geralt from Witcher 2 shirtless the other week.
Hey, Geralt only had no shirt on when he was escaping prison or sexing the ladies. If he was going into battle, he always had his clothes on. But I'm getting a bit carried away with this. The point is, I find it really tacky and just a lame 80s convention, and I'm over it.
Fair enough. In Hunted, you'll also have a few upgradable spells which you can map to the D-pad, and that'll help mix up the combat a bit. The game is very linear, but in a bad way. There's the option of a glowing trail for you to follow, not that you need it. And the scenery is full of all these little alcoves presenting scenes and things for you to look at, but you're unable to actually go into that area and have a look around for yourself. There wasn't much enemy variety either. There are some particularly choice moments when you're down in the dungeon, especially in co-op. But on the whole, the combat itself just felt mediocre.
Yeah, pretty unimpressive on the visual front too. It's poorly animated with some rather terrible blood spray animations, and I just found the landscape quite ugly. I mean, if I were to describe this game visually in one word, I'd say brown. I mean, this is fantasy. Your options are limitless. Make it interesting. We tried playing in split screen for a bit, but it's just too difficult to see what's going on.
I think we're heading straight to hell.
It really isn't the kind of game that suits split screen, really, so you're much better off playing online or system linking like we did. There's no drop-in, drop-out co-op, which is unfortunate, but there's a pretty detailed matchmaking system, which is good.
Kadok and Alara are definitely in it for the cash, but that makes them very boring as heroes. You do warm to them over time because of the banter, but they're still boring. All the gold you collect can be spent in the game's dungeon editor. This basically allows you to create your own dungeon to play in single player or share online with friends. A good idea, but a bit like Infamous 2's content creator, I didn't really enjoy the game enough to want to spend any time there.
I know, and I feel like we've been quite negative here, and it's not a completely horrible game, it's just got so many annoying things that really stack up. I just wish they'd taken more time to really flesh out the combat and cover system more, and made the rooms feel a little less linear and clunky. There were a few bugs too. I had to restart from a checkpoint at one stage because the area didn't load properly and I couldn't progress.
There were some thrilling moments though, like running from that giant spider and also down in the dungeon. But I had a very average time with this pretty average game, so I'm giving it 5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It was that art and design that really let things down for me, but I know that's a matter of personal taste. Some people might like brown.
Brown's alright, a bit of grey in there.
Sort of general beige. More so, the gameplay just felt really laboured. And when you weren't around, Barjo, I actually really struggled to find someone to play this in co-op with me for longer than 10 minutes. I didn't hate this game, but I really didn't love it either. So I'm giving it 5.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game! So did you guess the game for this week? This feels weird. It was the 2004 version of The Bard's Tale for console and PC, developed by In Exile Entertainment, who brought us this week's Hunted. This Bard's Tale was a remake of the 1985 original and a rollicking romp that poked fun at the fantasy genre.
Barjo, it's still empty. Well, I have something we can put in there. A Good Game t-shirt and a rubber chicken pen. Score!
If you'd like to win this hefty swag, all you need to do is submit your case on the forums, the Facebook page, or Twitter with hashtag GGTV.
Coming up on next week's show, 2 of Japan's best game developers, Suda51 and Shinji Mikami, combined to bring us the hellish action-adventure Shadows of the Damned.
We'll also be taking a look at some of the downloadable games of late, including the sexy, sleek strategy of Frozen Synapse and Trenched from Double Fine Games.
Plus, we'll take a careful look at the evolution of the video game cutscene. But until then, gamers, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.